on, swallow your soul. Similar to if I kick in your teeth, swallow a soul. You a dub, W clan, y'all can swallow us whole. Or get snug with these two cans if you follow my nose. I'm gold. Take a shot from the grassy knoll. I can school you with the Draco. This ain't the grassy knoll. Under siege feel like Waco. Y'all should already know. Got this red dot mark on you, marks like ready go. You boss around, get around like a merry-go. Catch a big fish, I'm not Moby Dick, but there she goes. See that boomstick? Get your boom boom click, my flow. Make the room sick, then put the 666 below. Y'all like who this? Masking a MF like Loomis. I do this so deadly with mics like Dr. Loomis. This is Necronomicon music. What else would you expect from the Necronomicon, stupid?
Groovy.
Alright. Welcome to the Indie Corner. We'll talk about all things independent comics. I'm Mikey.
I'm Rebecca.
And today, people, we're back at again another episode of the Indie Corner podcast with our third episode of our Fright Month event. Yeah, people, this is our third episode, and we're going to be obviously from the intro. We want to do something different, you know. Well, because last year, if you remember, we did Army of Darkness 1975. Yeah, one of the numbers. That was really fun, and we really enjoyed it. But we want to do another Evil Dead book. But this time, we want to shake it up a little bit because this was actually our original choice last year. But then we changed it up because, I don't know, I forgot the reason why. I think it's because it was a Rodney Barnes book, and I was like, I want to see where Rodney Barnes is Evil Dead. But yeah, we're going to be covering the crossover and the anticipated crossover that will never happen on screen. But Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. That's I'm excited, Rebecca. I'm excited because this is a weird like predicament that like the you know the not really the controversy, but like the story of like how this book got made, because this was originally a treatment for an actual film from Jeff Katz, who is the writer for Freddy vs. Jason that was made by New Line Cinema, and clearly that didn't happen because it's a book now. So, but yeah, Rebecca, I'm excited. I'm excited, and the thing is, this is we were talking about it off screen, but in fact, this is this was published as a collaboration between Wildstorm, which is people I know is the DC imprint that was created originally by Jim Lee for Image Comics, and Dynamite Entertainment. And when I saw Dynamite Entertainment, I was like, oh, okay, it's gonna be rough because this was early Dynamite, and early Dynamite was a mess in my opinion. But
that was the scariest part about reading this comic, was seeing the Dynamite logo.
yeah, you're just like, you see that Dynamite logo, you're just like, oh god, okay. But yeah, Rebecca, are you ready to get into this? I'm ready to get into this. I'm excited.
Yeah.
But just to start off real quick, Rebecca, because for people that don't know, we're gonna talk about it when we start off the series. But this book is literally a direct sequel to Freddy vs. Jason. So this takes place like a week after, and Rebecca, and shout out to Christian as well, who's not here, and I we watched that movie last year for funsies in our usual movie night, and I don't remember anything about it. I don't remember a thing besides that Kelly Rowland's in it and that she's a walking, talking black stereotype from beginning to end, and that was it. So Rebecca will, as you know, because it's her favorite movie of all time, right?
I wouldn't go that far, but we can do that bit if we want.
I remember you said you really love the movie a lot, so like. So, but she will provide us a nice little like Freddy versus Jason recap for us real quick, so we can feel us and all, like, just to get us started off until we get into the book. So Rebecca, you can start us off real quick if you please.
Sure. So really, there's nothing you have to know other than Freddy fights Jason. But to get a little deep into it, the premise of that movie is people are forgetting about Freddy, and when people don't believe in him, he doesn't have power. So he uses Jason to start killing kids, and then Jason kills too many kids and takes all his credit, and then they fight about it. That's kind of the movie. Of course, a lot more happens in there, but that's the basic premise. I would also say, like, just in general with this comic, if you don't know the basic premise of Freddy haunts your dreams, Jason kills at a camp, and Ash fights dead-eyed zombies, zombies is probably more what you would think if you haven't seen that movie. You're probably not going to understand a lot of what's going on here. This movie, or I'm sorry, this comic expects you to go in with a certain amount of lore, or at least expects you to have seen Freddy versus in the first movie.
That's true. I mean, luckily for us, we like watch horror movies and stuff, so like we're familiar with them. But yeah, if you want to get a better experience and not be confused, like watch videos or watch the movies if you can grab them. At least like the first ones, like watch Nightmare on Elm Street, watch the second Friday the 13th. You don't really gotta watch I don't feel like you have to watch the first one because like Jason's technically not in it, you know.
It's not even Jason till like the third movie with the hockey mask and all that, but
that's right, of course. And then watch Evil Dead 2. You can watch Evil Dead 1, but Evil Dead 2 is, that's more of the Ash that we're familiar with is from Evil Dead 2. So,
right, it's the campier version of Ash. If you go and watching Evil Dead 1, I just watched that literally yesterday. It's played a lot more straightforward than Evil Dead 2.
Exactly. And yeah, so like so that you need to watch at least like those 3 movies in order to understand, at least to get the basic premise, because they do not really hold your hand. They will give you recaps in the book, but like, you'll have a better experience if you going through it with like that kind of like background knowledge a little bit.
Right, but I also don't know why you'd be reading this if you weren't already into at least Freddy or Jason or Ash.
Right, like I mean, like I feel like you have to, like I feel like most fans people that would pick this book up are fans of like either 1, 2, or like all 3 of the franchises. So yeah, it just that makes more sense. And yeah, I mean, so that was our quick Evil Dead recap. But so yeah, thanks Rebecca for that. That was short and sweet. I'll go into just briefly like kind of like what happened, because why this comic exists. Because it was originally a treatment, not a script, just like a 17-page treatment by Jeff Katz, again, who wrote the script for Freddy versus Jason. And I think it's like Ash wasn't the original choice. They pitched a lot of franchises like Chucky, Pinhead, like a lot of other horror icons before they went to Ash. And he wanted to do Ash because, he felt like Ash made the more sense, because Ash is, the hero of, he's the final guy and the hero of like his franchise. So to see him go against like Freddy and Jason, who are like the icons of who are like, these iconic franchises, made sense to go with Ash. And it seems like, I don't know about you, Rebecca, going into the book, but like Ash's like story kind of is the easiest to like explain for a crossover between all 3 of them. Like, in my opinion, I think it kind of works. And yeah, so there was that, and then we tried to get the movie made for years under New Line, but again, because you have 3 franchises under 3 different distribution studios, so New Line, and then I know that Sam Raimi has his distribution company, I think Ghost House Entertainment, I think it's called, and with Bruce Campbell and whoever runs has the rights for like Friday the 13th. I don't really remember, but one of the big things, there was a dispute with Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell about it, why that movie isn't one thing. That whole movie was ultimately a character decision that was made by Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi, was one of the reasons why the movie didn't happen, and I will explain what that is going when we do the book. But yeah, that was pretty much the backstory. It's just like the treatment didn't happen, but instead, to please the fans, they made a comic book instead. And yeah, which I think which we'll talk about it throughout the course of the podcast, but this was kind of the better choice, because this would have ultimately been expensive and kind of difficult to translate in live action, in my opinion. But
I don't know. I was saying, reading this, I could see it in my mind's eye, shitty CGI and all. I could see them going through with this.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. All right. So Rebecca, you got the first issue, right?
Right.
So Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. Such a fucking mouthful. Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, #1. And Rebecca, you take it away real quick. Take it away.
All right. I guess we're not going to talk about this 3 variant cover.
Oh, 100%. We're gonna
Is
talk
this
about it.
spread or like what is this?
It is no. So it was, from what I understand, it's 3 cover. So it's pretty much 3 variant covers of the same issue. So if you bought all 3 number ones with Freddy, Jason, and Ash on each cover, you could combine them and like, guys, look at this. Look at these 3 issues of the same comic that I just bought that I could put together and make a giant poster that connects. I mean, like, it's kind of cool though. It's kind of cool, and it's good art. Like, it's drawn by J. Scott Campbell, and it's like, yeah, you got like the Elm Street. You got the Crystal Lake where Freddy is. You have the Elm Street where Jason is, and you have the Necronomicon behind Ash, combining them all together. And it's like, this is cool. Like, look at this. Oh, awesome this is. I like it. I think it's literally a marketing gimmick and kind of a scam, but like I think it's cool.
Low key, this is giving the posters they would sell at the Scholastic Book Fair.
That, yes, I agree. But yeah, anything else you want to say before we move on? Oh, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, so Jeff Katz is the guy who created the story for it, but it's written by James Kuhoric and the art is by Jason Craig. So yeah, just gonna get those names out there.
All right, we wanna jump into issue 1?
I mean, of course.
All right. We set our scene in the scariest place on Earth, New Jersey, more specifically Crystal Lake, which is about to be renamed to Forest Green.
Of course, a haunted areas. Of course, Crystal Lake is in New Jersey. I completely forgot. Like, I love how
I always think it's so funny when like all these classic horror movies are like set in like Ohio or Illinois or New Jersey or some state where like this shit's not happening.
I want to normalize the use of like shitty or horrible places being in New Jersey, like Crystal Lake. Like, Matt Reeves did what he did with the Batman, and it revealed in Penguin that Gotham City is in New Jersey, and I was like, yes, because New Jersey's a dump.
All right, so to correct you a little bit, Mikey, it's actually been 5 years since the events of Freddy vs. Jason, the movie.
Okay.
And we get a spread showing us some of the scenes from that movie. Again, if you haven't seen the movie, it's completely out of context, so you're not going to know what the fuck any of those little drawings are from.
Mm-hmm.
Our survivors from the last movie, Lori and Will, drive to Camp Crystal Lake against their better judgment, but Lori had a feeling that Jason and Freddy aren't really gone. Mm-hmm. Needless to say, she's right. Shortly after exiting their car, Lori finds Will strung up and bloody with Jason not far behind. She tries to flee and fight back with a random buzzsaw. And because this is a Dynamite collab based off a script from a 2000 movie, we also get a panty shot when she's picking up the buzzsaw.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
But she does make a point here that's a little bit interesting, that she felt bad for Jason having a tragic past of being bullied and drowned in his movies. But he doesn't really get a pass because he won't stop killing people even after he kills like the counselors.
Mm-hmm.
But Lori manages to knock him out of a window, but because Jason can basically teleport, he gets the drop on her and puts a machete in her face, killing her. Mm-hmm. Jason walks off with the bodies, and we see Freddy's head appear briefly. And another thing to mention is that while all this is happening, Ash is narrating into what basically boils down to, that may have been the last movie's final girl, but there's only one chosen one, and it's Ash.
Yeah, boy. I love that. I know, it was so funny.
Yeah, I feel like they could have... I like it when final girls get to live, or get to come back in the sequel and do it again, but it's fine. I'm not going to act like I'm attached to the final girl from Freddy vs. Jason.
Yeah, I did think it was kind of wild, and even some videos I was watching to prep for this, they the Will and Lori, right? Is the
Lori, yeah.
Yeah, Lori, we saw in the movie Freddy vs. They just get axed immediately. But granted, it's their own fault because they went back to check, which they shouldn't have done. So
you never want to be the opening kill in a sequel.
Nope.
All right, so cut over to Crystal Lake's Super Mega Ultra S-Mart, which is this universe's Kmart Walmart parody, and we see surprise. This is actually a Christmas comic, which means we get to clip it for the holidays too.
Yes, yes, more Christmas content for us.
But anyway, we meet our new gang of 2000s horny teens. Their names aren't super important outside of Caroline, who's our nice final girl-esque character. And we also see their boss, who's trying to run this place like the Navy, and he exposits that in order to get ready for the holiday season, they're bringing in an S-Mart professional. So back over with Jason, he's dragging his newest victims to his cabin, and we see he's got Freddy's head up on an altar next to his mother's for some reason. We get a dream sequence that's a callback to Jason's nightmare in the first movie, except this time Jason walks in on Freddy fucking his mom.
Bro.
It's kind of wild.
It is. Okay. This was one of the most out-of-pocket things ever, because I like, yeah, because, it's typical, yeah, like 70s flashback of, like, Camp Crystal Lake, and, you got the camp counselors, being responsible, and you got, the other camp counselors just fucking for no reason, and then you just go to this cabin, you go inside, and you see, this lovely old couple getting in, no, it's just freaking Freddy laying pipe on Pam, which is nuts, It's like, wow. Like, think about that. Like, this was a script for a movie. Like, this is crazy.
I can totally see them doing it too, but I don't like it.
I don't like it either. It's so weird.
Anyway, Dream Mom tells Jason to listen to Freddy, and that if he wants to be a normal boy, he'll need to fetch the Necronomicon for Freddy. Finally, we see Ash pulling into the S-Mart in his Oldsmobile, once again asserting that he is the chosen one, and there's only two things left in his life that matter to him: killing Deadites and destroying the Necronomicon, and that's the end of issue 1.
Yeah, issue 1 I thought was cool. I mean, I thought it was a good start. It was the quickest read, in my opinion, out of all the issues. But yeah, it was like a nice little recap of like, hey, this is what happened in the movie for Freddy vs. Jason versus Ash. Freddy versus Jason, sorry. Here are our new here are our old characters from last one getting axed and being murdered for their stupid decisions, as people in horror movies do. Here's our new cast of characters. Here's Freddy coming back, obviously Jason coming back, and the reveal that Freddy is still around, but not in the way you think, because Rebecca, if you remember, in the movie, obviously Jason cut Freddy's head off, but obviously, when Jason's like holding his head, Freddy, like, his head like winks, so it's like, yeah, like I'll be back eventually. I like kind of like, it's a good idea of him, like, like a fragment of him is still in like Jason's head, like, because
right. I feel like they don't fully explain that enough. Like, they need a few more lines in here to be like, oh, by the way, this is why this is happening, because it kind of like doesn't make sense when you're reading it the first time, and you're like, and this is spoiler for your later issues, but Freddy's in the real world now, but why is he also in the dreams? And that's, I guess, part of the mystery too. But it's like, we just did this in the first movie. Why is it like out of continuity with those rules?
Yeah,
and they do explain it to their credit. It's stupid, but they do explain it.
They do. But the thing is, like, especially like when it's like, like the reason for like Ash showing up and all that, there's a lot of plot advancement just to make sure that things just like happen the way they're supposed to, with like, out of any like real explanation. But yeah, no, I still think it's cool. It's still cool. I just, there's them trying to be like, okay, like I do like the fact that Ash is here because there's a new like super huge S-Mart in Crystal Lake, which again they don't call it Crystal Lake anymore because they want to bury, they want to bury the past, so they call it like Forest Hills, something like that. The town does, and that's why Ash is here, which is cool. But again, it's just like you think it's cool, but in the back of my mind is like, I guess this makes sense, like, but yeah, but it's one of those situations like, try not to think about it too much. Just let it happen. But yeah, I think this issue was a cool start. Again, that shit in the thing that Freddy committing an atrocity is like that was so out of pocket, and I'm just like, wow. But
Freddy is nothing but out of pocket in this comic book, as we'll get into in a second.
yeah, true. And yeah, and the fact that like the intro to the Necronomicon is really cool. I think it's cool, and I also think for Jason Craig with the art, I think is really cool. He does a really good job, I think. With his style and trying to like make sure like the characters look like the way that they're supposed to, like in terms of the likeness and everything. Like Freddy looks like Robert Englund, like
I think he does
Ash
a
looks
really
like Bruce
good
Campbell.
job drawing Jason in this. I think sometimes, I don't think so much in this issue. There are some times throughout this where the art gets a little wonky. I'm not
It
sure if it's
does.
the references he uses or what.
Mm-hmm.
But like this panel we have on screen right now, like that looks like Bruce Campbell,
Looks like Bruce Campbell, yeah. I do agree. I do like the fact that like he makes Jason's skin like black because of like the decay and all that stuff. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, like
But
when he does the close-up shots of Jason, and it's just like his eyes, like that looks sick, dude.
yeah, it's all. I don't have that page. I don't have that page there, but I think it's so good and it's so well rendered. I'm also like props to the colorist. I don't have the colorist. I'm trying to think what the colorist is. I think the color in here is also like just as good. It feels like a 2000s like it feels like hey it feels like a 2000s like color correction in my opinion. I think the coloring here is really good. But yeah, this was so far. It was a solid start. It was a solid start. But yeah, everything. Anything else you want to say before we move on?
I think I'm good for this issue. Like you said, I think it's a solid start to this comic.
Mm-hmm. All right. So Rebecca, you want to move on to issue number 2?
Yeah.
So issue number 2 of Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. Thoughts on this cover? This is actually my favorite one in the whole series. I love this cover a lot. It's really cool.
It's not loading on my screen.
No, it looks sick. Like it's literally just like the close up shot of Freddy's face doing that weird ass creepy smile, and then Jason coming out his left eye, and then Ash coming out his mouth while his mouth is like it's Ash coming out of Freddy's mouth, but the boomstick is like holding his mouth open so that Ash can come out. I think it's really cool. Like it's okay. A really cool detail.
All right, I got it pulled up now. Yeah, it's a cool cover. I like how it puts all 3 characters one on the same cover, but yeah, the composition's cool.
The composition's cool. One thing I don't like about it though, like I don't like the coloring of it. I don't like the whole like red thing that's going on. I found actually an image. Cause I was trying to use it for the thumbnail. I found someone on DeviantArt recolored it, and it looks so much better. Like it looks so much better. But yeah, no, I think the cover is dope. Yeah, Rebecca, you want to just start us off again on issue 2?
All right. So picking up right where we left off, Ash flirts with some women in a parking lot as the S-Mart manager meets him and berates him for being late. As they enter the store, the women remark that Ash never had a chance, and we see that Jason is watching them. Over in Jason vision, all of the women suddenly get Freddy heads and taunt him, even calling him the F-slur, which was kind of funny when Kelly Rowland may or may not have improv that in the first movie, but here it just feels mean.
Yeah.
Of course, Jason, being an ally, immediately slashes these girls to bits.
Bruh, it's crazy. Like but granted, like when you hear them, when you see how like nasty these girls are, like just to Ash and to like just people, you're just like, yeah, no, they got what they deserved a little bit. It's kind of karma, in a way, a little bit of harsh karma, but
I mean, compared to what Freddy was saying, they weren't that bad.
Oh yeah, true.
But with all the screaming, Ash comes outside and sees blood as a witness says it was Jason. The cops show up and try to arrest Ash, but luckily he has a solid alibi this time, which means back to work. Ash trauma/exposition dumps his backstory on the teens, but they all laugh it off except for Caroline. As Caroline fills Ash in on the Jason lore, one of the teens dresses up like Jason to scare him and immediately gets his shit rocked before the manager breaks things up. Over in the dream world, Freddy and Jason are having some dream stepfather-son bonding time, where yet again Freddy is throwing slurs around, but
God.
this is another scene reinforcing that Jason needs to get Freddy the book. I think it's kind of redundant. It doesn't really need to be here, even though it's like one page.
I just think it's weird.
It is weird. Every like flash between Freddy and Jason is weird on this. But flashing to the real world, Jason goes out and kills a bunch of Christmas carolers, just cause as he heads to grab the book. As the teens are getting ready to leave work, one of them, Bree, flirts with Ash to buy her a bunch of camping supplies and pack in her car. I don't know why she needs this. They're just going to a house. But for whatever reason, Ash thinks he's coming along, but gets ditched by the group of teens as we learn they're headed to spend a night in the Voorhees house.
Mm-hmm.
Later, the teens arrived at the dilapidated house and instantly start stripping. Call me a coward, but I don't think having floor sex in a rundown house with no heat in the middle of winter sounds like a good time. And apparently Jason agrees.
That sounds awful.
Doesn't it? But soon after, Ash arrives to the same house looking for the Necronomicon, and Carrie pulls up as well, trailing behind him. Ash checks the cellar for the Necronomicon as Jason gets slashing upstairs, finding the book just as the blood starts to drip down from above. Ash rushes upstairs, finds Bree, and they kiss, even though Bree's friend just got murdered in front of her not 5 minutes ago. Mm-hmm. Also, Jason's here. Ash is able to hit him with a shotgun blast, and the two make to his car. But of course, it won't start, and we end on a cliffhanger as Jason approaches.
Mm-hmm.
And that's issue 2.
Yeah. This issue was cool. It was fun. I do think that like the Jason kills here are pretty nice.
There's a surprising amount of gore in this comic. Like, it's not afraid to be bloody, and it is going to be bloody.
Nah, I mean, I feel like you can't have a Jason Freddy versus Ash versus Jason like anything without like massive amounts of like blood and gore in it. It just doesn't make any sense.
Right. I feel like it feels different here because it's played more straight, and maybe not so much in Freddy versus Jason. It's played a little more straight, even though I do think that movie's camp. But it's not as like, you know, that fake red blood that you would get in a lot of 80s movies.
I gotcha. But yeah, no, I thought this issue was fine. I thought a lot of the kills were cool. Like, you know, like the kills and the action were really cool. I do like the fact that, like, you know, when Ash gets arrested, well, when he gets quote unquote like detained, they do imply like when he's free to go after, you know, he has his alibi with his boss. I like how the cops do say like, yeah, like they've heard about him before, and then, you know, he has like a troubled history. So yeah, the fact that, like, you know, I like how Ash's whereabouts are like kind of somewhat known to people, you know, about like a little weird this guy is, you know. It's just I think it shouldn't be, but like, you know, it's whatever. Him trying to like relate to the kiddos is hilarious to me. I'm just like, why? Like him trying to like when he said like when the kids leave to go to the Voorhees house, and he's like, oh, can I come along? And he's like, no, like, why did you think that they would actually let you come with them? You know, they're just gonna go there to have sex. Like, is what you do in the Voorhees house. Apparently. Just his dynamic with like his young coworkers that are like, you know, that like just think he's just a weird, like he's just like a weird like old man is crazy. I think it's so funny. Also, I forgot to mention as well that like this book takes place 5 years after Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah. But
in terms of like in terms of like Evil Dead timeline, this book takes place 16 years after Army of Darkness.
I guess it's been a lonely 16 years.
Yeah. And like Ash looks the same. So like, you know, so this man, I guess, is like, you know, I would say
in this comic he's 35.
He's in his 30s, right? Yeah, like he's in his 30s, and this man's trying to like get like flirt with like teenagers. So it's like it's kind of wild. And like, yeah, like dynamite at his finest, I guess.
I know this is a horror movie comic, so there have to be teens, but they didn't have to be teens in this.
Yeah, no, they didn't have to be.
You didn't have to make Ash flirt with a minor. I know that. I feel like that's kind of in character, unfortunately, but you didn't have to.
Yeah, right. Quick question, Rebecca. So I want to just be clear because again, I haven't really watched a lot of the Friday the 13th movies, not like you have. But is the Voorhees house like a thing like in the movies or no?
Uh, kind of. It's like different every movie. There is a Voorhees house. If I recall correctly, I think it's in Jason versus Hell or Jason Goes to Hell. Um, there's a cameo of a Necronomicon. It doesn't go anywhere, and that's why people are like, "Oh, they were setting this movie up like 20 years ago, whatever." But
Yeah.
the lore for those movies is like bad shit anyway, so I wouldn't worry about it.
That's why, yeah. When I was prepping for this, I also heard that like there was a Necronomicon tease in that movie, which again kind of is smart. That like when people who read the treatment or talk about the treatment of the comic, yeah, like it kind of does work with like in its favor. Where like yeah, like they tease Necronomicon in that Jason movie, and also like apparently yeah in Evil Dead. I don't know if it's 1 or 2, but like you see a Freddy glove like hanging somewhere. So like like a little cameo over there, a little cameo here. Also like it kind of makes sense. Like they could like cross over with the 3 franchises in a way. But yeah, I just want to ask because like I didn't know about a Voorhees house, so I was like, I'm gonna ask Rebecca, the expert.
I think it's only in like the later movies they have, or in that one specific movie that they have it, but I don't quite remember.
Okay, all right, fair enough. But yeah, no, this I thought was fine. I mean, again, it's just like the action I thought was good, the kills were good. I like the dynamic with Ash's character involving some of the younger characters that he works with. Again, the Freddy being in Jason's mind is talking to him as like a kid in his mind is a little weird, just because he's like, Freddy's just weird. He's just weird and just like he's so out of pocket, like especially with all like the like you cannot count on 2 hands how many slurs he says in this book. It's crazy.
It's kind of an absurd amount, honestly. Yeah. I don't think you could use that much in a movie, but this is also the 2000s, so who's to say?
Who's to say? But yeah, I thought this issue was fine. So that's my thoughts on it. But yeah, so I guess we'll move on to issue number 3 then. So issue number 3 of Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. But yeah, nah, thoughts on this cover for me. I think this cover is also great. I don't really Eric Powell is the artist. It looks really cool. I think like it's really cool art style. More comic booky, more so than like kind of some of the realized covers that are in here. But yeah, it's cool. It's really cool stuff. I like it a lot.
Once again, I really like how they draw Jason here.
Yeah, it looks cool. Like he just like I do like the fact that he's colored, like his skin is colored black, because like, the kid's such a cool detail. Like I really like that a lot. So yeah, we'll move on to issue number 3. So it starts right where we left off, where where Jason is now going after Ash and Caroline, and pretty much Jason does this by it's not Carrie, it is Ash and Bree going into Ash's car to seek some safety to get the hell out of there because the car's not starting. Jason intercepts them and throws his machete through the windshield, and Ash catches it at the last second. And I do like the fact that Ash says that he's yet again Ash proves that he's very difficult to kill and is very lucky that he hasn't died so far. Jason ends up immobilizing the car completely by smashing the hood and destroying the engine. And while Jason is about to try to go after them, Caroline comes out of nowhere with her car, hits Jason. Jason flies back, and that gets Ash to go in the car, and they drive off. But Ash notices that Bree is literally like walking around in a towel in the snow, and that's not good because hypothermia is a problem. So they end up grabbing her as well, and they drive away on their way to S-Mart. And while this is happening, Freddy is back in Jason's head, and this time he's in a classroom with little Jason in the center, pretty much ranting about why he let them get away and how he has no excuse for his mistake. And he decides to get more information about who this person is by it's messed up by taking one of his little blades, cutting, like opening like a little, like cutting a little hole into Jason's forehead and picking at his brain to go through his memories, and then he sees Ash's, that Jason noticed Ash's S-Mart name tag, and he pretty much tells him, hey, listen, you gotta go to this Ash Williams guy because he has my book and I need that book. So do that, Jason. Please do that. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing because while he says that, he says like 10 slurs in here. So when it transitions back to Ash, Carrie, Bree, and the other employees of S-Mart, pretty much explain the fact that like they got to pretty much, you know, they got to pretty much figure out how to read this book to send Jason and Freddy. And no, he doesn't know about Freddy yet, but to send Jason back to like, you know, the Deadite dimension, pretty much. I don't know about you, Rebecca, but I find it interesting here that Ash refers to Jason as a Deadite here. Like he said that Jason's like just like a weird, like mutated, like he's a different variation of a Deadite, and I don't know about you as a Jason fan, but I kind of like that. That like you're like, yeah, he's just a different breed of Deadite.
Yeah, they like canonize that in this book. It's not canon in the Friday movies, obviously. Yeah. I know some people hate that fan theory because, like I said, there was that Necronomicon cameo in one of them, but I don't mind it. I think it's kind of fun. It doesn't quite make sense if like they aren't doing other Evil Dead things there, but Jason's supernatural anyway. It doesn't really matter how he's supernatural, in my opinion.
That is true. And we will go into more of that theory later on in the issues. But yeah, so pretty much Ash and everyone were trying to go up the game plan and trying to figure out a passage in the Necronomicon to read that will bring up a portal to send Jason to that dimension. But while they're doing that, guess who's back? Guess who found them and teleported to S-Mart? Jason. And guess what? There's a bunch of people in this mall. There's a bunch of people in this store, man. So you know what Jason's about to do? He's about to murder everybody.
He gets crazy with it too.
Dude, this is some of the... Let me get a series of some of the craziest kills I've ever seen. Like I don't have all of them, but I have this one. I pretty much my favorite one, where he takes a shopping cart and turns this man's head into like grated cheese.
It's crazy.
It is nuts. And there's another one where like he literally like he pins a woman onto like some shelving hooks, which is like crazy as hell. And like while this is happening, like and also he takes what's his name, the manager, like the annoying Poindexter manager of S-Mart, takes his clipboard that he's been using to like document everyone who's been fucking up. He takes his clipboard and just shoves it in, and he shoves it in this guy's mouth until he's like completely like
his head like comes off.
His head comes completely off. It's wild. And then while this is happening, Ash actually runs back, and they're just like, Ash, where are you going? But it turns out no, he went to go get his handy dandy chainsaw to put on his chainsaw attachment on his hand and stuff. And we get an actual fight. We get another fight between Ash and Jason with the chainsaw hand, and it's pretty cool. But and you think it's cool shit, but then it ends up how you expect it to. Jason with his super strength destroys the chainsaw like immediately, and then decides to take Ash, fling him like a ragdoll through a wall. And you see his head go through the wall, and then he takes him out of the wall again and throws him back into it, and he goes through the wall and hits a vending machine.
Yeah, the way it's paneled here too, it looks like a Sam Raimi shot. Like you can see the comedy in that almost.
Yeah, you can see the Three Stooges influence in there, and I think it works. And then freaking Carrie comes to Ash's rescue and tries to stab Jason with a knife. But what's Carrie gonna do against Jason, man? He just backhands her once and she's unconscious. And then Jason immediately goes towards Bree and grabs the Necronomicon and walks away. And also, I don't know about you, Rebecca, I didn't notice the fact that when Jason's in and most of the scenes in the book, you see the onomatopoeia go. I think it's kind of cool the way they do that. So Jason walks out of S-Mart after causing a massacre. What's it called? All the S-Mart employees come to. And immediately Carrie's thinking, oh, like, you know, where's Bree? Where's Bree? Because Jason went after the Necronomicon. It was revealed that Jason murdered her because, you know, that's what he does. And they immediately go to Ash's aid to get him to get him out of the vending machine because his head is right through it. And it cuts back to Jason going to, you know, the shrine that he made that has his mother and Freddy's head onto it. He opens up the Necronomicon. He puts the Necronomicon near Freddy's head, which then Freddy, I guess in the dream world, can access the Necronomicon and actually read it. He then goes through, like, okay, he goes through the various pages, finds one on resurrection, says the words, and now he is back in the real world. And he also acknowledges that there is a passage on waking nightmares, and he said he can very much utilize something like that. So now Freddy's in the real world, and yep, as you can tell, that's not good. So it transitions back to Carrie's house, where they all ended up going to for just kind of like a place to, like, you know, regroup and come up with a plan. Ash pretty much goes into the whole thing about how, you know, what Necronomicon can do, and why Jason having it is a bad idea, and how they should enact a plan to get rid of him. And they pretty much all decide to, like, you know, hey, they all decide to rest up, and Ash will end up, you know, staying watch to make sure if anything happens that he can do something to stop. He can defend them right away. But, you know, to Ash's plan, he ends up passing out. And, you know, now that Freddy's in the real world, you probably can guess what happens next. Ash wakes up immediately, but he wakes up back at the cabin in the Evil Dead movie, which was a cool scene. It's one of my favorite scenes of the whole book. And he wakes up in the cabin, and he notices that he has his right hand back. And he's like, oh my gosh, like before, my right hand. But then he notices something. He sees a very similar veiny pattern crawl up his hand. And we're just like, oh gosh. His hand's turning again. The Deadhead's got it. Oh well. But instead of just going crazy like it does in the Evil Dead movie, 5 blades spew out of it instead. And then you just get a final scene of Ash, like in the Evil Dead movie, holding his hand and being like, oh my gosh, they got my hand again. And then you see Freddy in the shadows laughing at him. And that's how issue 3 ends. So those thoughts on issue 3, Rebecca.
I mean, this whole comic is paced out kind of like a movie. Like, if you break it up beginning, middle, end, we're at our first, like, big action sequences here. So I think this issue is really fun. You get to see the fighting, which is what you're reading this book for, you know. Freddy gets to do something that isn't calling Jason slurs.
Yep.
Jason gets to go, like, feral and kill people with shopping carts and all that. Ash gets his ass beat, which is fine for this part of the movie. We know he's not going to win till the end, you know?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I agree with you. This one was, like, my favorite. I thought it was a lot of fun. Again, a lot of you know, catching up, just getting like especially like the younger characters up to speed, because they thought, you know, Ash was crazy, and that, you know, also that Jason wasn't real. Like, they thought that, like, you know, he died way back as a kid in Crystal Lake years ago. The fact that they got a very quick reminder of reality of Jason and what he can do. Because that, like, when Jason does all these kills, they're all witnessing it, and I think one of them throws up, and it's the funniest shit. Like, it was typical, like, a movie beats, you know.
Right.
I thought it was really fun. Yeah, and, you know, Freddy coming back to the world, going back to the waking world, which that was really cool. Yeah, I thought this issue was really fun, and it's just the ending. I love the ending so much, because I love that. It's like, it's just them it would have been really cool to see this in live action. But yeah, just them recreating that iconic scene from Evil Dead back at the cabin again. But instead of, you know, the Deadite hand going crazy, it's like them just doing Freddy's glove, but as Ash's, like, possessed hand instead. That would have been awesome. Because I remember, wasn't there, like, a deleted scene in, like, Freddy vs. Jason from the ending where, like, that happened? Where, like, I think I read there was, like, there was an alternate ending where, like, Laurie and Will, they're like, yeah, they celebrate by obviously doing what people in horror movies do. They have sex. and then he like is about to like grab her, and then his hand turns into like it starts retracting the blades like Freddy's hand, and then that was like the real, oh, Freddy's actually back, he didn't die. So that
I
was
haven't
kind of
seen that deleted scene, but a lot of those movies end with a "Is he really dead?" I don't think so. You know.
I don't know if it was a deleted scene or if it was a scene from the movie, but like or an actual official scene from the movie. But either way, I like how they took that concept with like the actual like bladed like the bladed hand and actually put it in here. I thought it was so smart and clever. So yeah, I really enjoyed this issue. Was my favorite. I really liked it a lot.
Yeah, this might actually be the peak of the story, so you can stop watching here if you don't care about the rest.
Yeah,
of
you don't
it.
care after that. you can stop watching. You can stop watching. But yeah, Rebecca, do you have any more thoughts on issue number 3 before we move on to number 4?
No.
All right, people. So moving on, people, to issue number 4 of Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, and I'm gonna reshare the cover again just to be sure. But Rebecca, can you see it?
Oh, I see it now. I see it.
Okay, thank God. Well, yeah, Rebecca, thoughts on the on the cover here? I think it's fine.
I
like
think
the green
style's kind of cool, but I don't like the posing. Everything's too static.
Yeah. I do appreciate though as well that like each cover is drawn by a different artist. So I do like the fact that like all the covers are drawn differently. I do think that the posing is a bit static. I do like the color choices though. I think the coloring is really good. And all that, but yeah, Ash looks not like Bruce Campbell. I don't it's just yeah.
I can't tell if he's supposed to be possessed on this cover or if it's just a bad rendering.
Okay, you know what? I will say this because we don't see it in the comic, but like, would it have been really cool if like one of the ways that Ash needed to defeat Freddy and Jason is, you know, turning into like Deadite possessed Ash, like evil, like Deadite possessed Ash in like Evil Dead 2.
That would be kind of cool. That's the other thing too. Like, there's no Deadites in this. The only like one that is, if you count Jason, which in this movie they're saying he's a Deadite, or in this comic, there you go. But there's no like other Evil Dead hijinks going on in this. We don't have time for that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah. So yeah, we'll move on to issue number 4. So issue number 4, you know, picks up off where we left off from last issue, where it is Ash, in complete horror as 4 very sharp blades that look a lot like Freddy's glove are protruding out of his hand, and what's the first thing he does? He grabs the chainsaw, the iconic chainsaw, and cuts his hand off again. And it's like, yes, they're doing the scene. They're recreating the scene from the movie. Yes, I love it. And while this is happening, while Ash is looking at his lopped off possessed Freddy hand, he realizes that, wait a minute, like, how is this even happening? Like he kind of puts it together like, oh yeah, there's something, I feel like there's someone here pulling the strings. There's another player in the game outside of just Jason. And Freddy ends up laughing. You hear Freddy's laughter, and he's talking to Ash via the blood drips that Ash has been protruding and the blood puddle that's coming from his wound. And again, another Evil Dead homage, Rebecca. But I don't have this page here. But while he's talking to Ash, he's telling Ash that like, oh, you got a little bit of deja vu. All like the blood splatter starts forming into little blood versions of Freddy, so it turns into like little mini Freddys, like how it is in Army of Darkness with like little Ashes, and they all decide, and then they all start to kind of like that come on top of each other to start, and then to form actual like full body Freddy, and pretty much here Freddy is, you know, doing what Freddy does. He's, you know, talking about how he's pretty much taunting Ash, and he's pretty much telling him he came from the Necronomicon and how he is going to need it for his plans. And he takes Ash's decapitated hand, flings it at him. The hand starts coming to life, jumps at him. Ash uses his handy dandy boomstick, booms it apart, but then he tries to give him a nice little reminder where, like, you know, even he's in his dream world, and we're in his dream world. There's more blade hands where that came from, and he points to a shelf, which is filled with just possessed blade hands. And then while this is happening, Ash realizes that he is not awake, he is asleep. And he decides to take the hot muzzle of his boomstick and puts it onto his stump, into his stump, and the heat, and that pain wakes him up. But then he notices, real quick, as always, for people that know how Freddy's abilities work, when you get hurt in the dream, you get hurt in real life. So he notices a burn mark on his arm where he used the muzzle from his self-inflicted wound in the dream. And he immediately tells everyone to all the S-Mart gang to wake up, but he realizes that one kid, Dave, won't wake up. He's stuck, and we get to see a little preview of his nightmare where he's back in school to playing dodgeball in the gym, and he is waiting to be picked by the two team captains, but no one wants to pick him because they think he's dickless, and they call him Dickless Davy, and it's like sad. And then Freddy's there, and Freddy's like, oh yeah, like, let's see what this kid is made of. And he's kind of disguised as a coach. All the students who are turned into demons, and Freddy decide to take a bunch of dodgeballs and pummel this kid to death. So he's dead. And so he's dead. And then while this is happening, Freddy goes, meets up back with Jason, pretty much tell him that like he's pretty much sending him back out there to do some more killing, and that and also that he needs a Necronomicon, and that he needs to take care of Ash. That Ash is in the way of his plans. It transitions back to Ash and the gang going back to S-Mart, do some shopping to grab some gear so that they can pretty much the plan is pretty much go to the Voorhees house and kind of like set explosives and like booby trap the place, kind of like Home Alone it in a way, against Jason. And while he does that, and while and they pretty much they grab some stuff that they need, and they go down to the Voorhees house. And while they're at the Voorhees house, Ash, I don't have this page, but Ash said pretty much to come to the plan. They're going to plant explosives, and that we need to draw Jason near him to, not kill him, but like, stun him for a little while so we can, read the magic words of Necronomicon, summon the portal, put him in the Deadeye dimension, and everything will go back to normal. And while this is happening, I don't have this page. I missed this page. God damn it. But he ends up, getting something. He ends up getting something out of his bag, and it is a brand new chainsaw, which is the chainsaw we saw in the first issue that was being promoted by S-Mart, called the Chain Lightning. It is a very like all stainless steel metal chainsaw that can like cut through anything pretty much. And Ash attaches that to his hand, and pretty much they all split off to pretty much enact the plan. The other two characters, who I don't remember the names of, but because they don't matter, because they're the dipshit characters in the horror movie.
Right.
They are pretty much scouting the place, and they're trying to find places to set explosives, and they're immediately intercepted by Jason, because Jason teleports as he does, and he chases after them. And then while they hide, Jason ends up I think he grabs like a rock or something, and he just like is about to kill them off camera. We don't really see it, but while this is happening, I forgot to mention a little detail, Rebecca. Jason actually, so one of the deals that you talk about, like, remember before where Freddy offered Jason a deal where he would have him be normal. He actually does enact that a little bit, where he actually gives Jason a little bit of intelligence, just a little bit, because when Caroline notices something about Jason, that he notices the C4 on the ground and realizes that he's in a trap, which normally wouldn't happen because Jason is an idiot and is mindless and just loves to kill things. So then when she's like, oh my gosh, she peeks out, he looks directly at her and is like, Dikembe Mutombo, R.I.P., and is like, no, not in my house. And it's like, it's hilarious. And he immediately charges after her. It cuts back to Ash with his handy dandy new chainsaw, down into the basement. He notices Necronomicon right next to Freddy's hat. He's about to grab it. Freddy reveals to be right behind him, and actually takes his hand and goes through Ash's chest, I think, and you're just like, how is Ash like, alive? But again, he's the chosen one, so like he has multiple lives apparently.
Plot armor.
Plot armor. Yes, there we go, Rebecca. Thank you. Pretty much, and again, there's Freddy monologuing with slurs about how he, telling Ash that he needs a Necronomicon and he can't stand in his way, blah blah blah, yada yada, evil monologue. And while this is happening, Ash is pretty much about to say he's gonna stop him. And the twist is that, oh wait, by the way, just so you know, I already did all that shit I wanted to do like 10 minutes ago. And then all these nightmares come to life, and it's crazy. And all these spirits come out of Necronomicon, and it's wild. This kind of alerts Jason, and Jason starts going towards the house, and Ash immediately gets swarmed by these possessed Freddy finger hands. And it's funny because Freddy calls it a hand job, and I'm just like, is this really what Nightmare on Elm Street humor is like? Like, it's just like, damn.
Yeah, that one's in character.
Yeah. And he thinks that, like, oh, it looks like he even said, looks like the chosen one's about to check out. And Freddy, and then next Jason comes back, and he's like, why are you here? I just gave you a little bit. I just gave you what you wanted. Like, you got some intelligence in you. There we go. Like, this is a betrayal. And then he said, on second thought, you know what? Because you're betraying me, I am going to instead of me bringing your mom back, because even though I should have done that and I didn't, it's what it is. Because that's why Jason came back, because he promised to bring his mom back and he didn't. So instead, he decided to conjure up every person Jason has ever killed instead to pretty much combat him. And that's how issue 4 ends. So that's on issue 4.
There's a lot going on in this issue.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the whole Freddy reveal, and from this point forward in the plot, it's kind of like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
To reiterate, Freddy now has control over both the dream world and the waking world, so
yeah,
he's got Deadite powers, but he can just basically do Freddy Krueger shit, like, in the real world.
Mm-hmm. Mm. I mean, again, if this was in live action, it would have been pretty cool.
Yeah.
But expensive.
I feel like this comic, this would have been better as a movie than as a comic. I feel like I'd be more forgiving of it as a movie than a comic in some ways, Like, it has all the beats of a movie when you're reading it.
Yeah, it does.
And I think there's some cool ideas in here. Like, Jason getting, I guess, tortured by his victims. I think that's a cool idea. I think some of the ways they combine the lore is cool. But at this point in the plot, it just feels like a lot's happening at once.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, just like a lot's going on. Like a lot of it, like a lot of stuff. And a lot of ideas and a lot of really cool, like, set pieces are just happening all at once. It's just like, damn, like, this is a lot.
It's a little hard to keep track of almost. Yeah,
pretty much. But yeah, no, I think this issue was fun. Again, it was a bit hard to go through for me. Because again, well, all these issues are wordy, but like, this one was
is very like, here is my evil monologue. I'm going to continue to do this for the next 2 issues, kind of thing.
And it's very, and with Freddy, unfortunately, it's very repetitive, and it's just like, oh, okay.
Right. I feel like as a whole, Freddy is, I don't want to say mischaracterized, but like maybe a little too much out of character. He's a mastermind in this, which he was the mastermind in Freddy versus Jason. You're not supposed to like him. He's the heel between the 2 serial killers, but I think he's too mean in this, and he's not funny enough. He's not campy enough with it. Like, he is a little bit with like the Ash, like the thousands of hands flying out at him. Yeah. But I feel like it doesn't like come across like how it does in the movie, where it's still like a little silly goofy.
And like, that's the thing with me, because like, I wish I knew that, but like, I didn't really watch the Freddy. Like, I only know from my Freddy knowledge is only from Freddy versus Jason, and like, I'm not really. And remember, I told you that my first Freddy movie I ever watched was like the reboot that they made like in 2010 or like 2010.
That one's probably a lot more in line with this interpretation of Freddy.
Yeah, and like I'm not used to Freddy. I'm not, because I've only seen that and like Freddy, so I'm not used to Freddy being campy. So I thought this was from what I've seen, this was to character, but like obviously I'm wrong, because you didn't say.
I know we've started it, but I got to make you watch Dream Warriors one day. All the way.
All I care about was the Wizard Master scene. That's all I wanted.
I am the Wizard Master. I am the Wizard Master.
good.
I want to be a wizard master, and he's just like, it's so stupid. You put that
He
clip
still dies in the same scene.
It's so funny. But yeah, it's Freddy's just he's awful. Like he's just an asshole in this. And it's just
He's
a monologue.
so hard.
Yeah, and it's just like damn. But yeah, like it's some still good action here. Again, I love the idea of you said like Freddy, Jason's victim coming back to haunt him. That's really cool idea. Again, the Deadite hands, like the possessed Deadite Freddy hands going after Ash is really cool. Yeah, this was fine. I thought it was all right. But yeah, I got really nothing else to say. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I don't really have any thoughts either. It's kind of hard to review these issues because it's clearly meant to be read like as a whole.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, all right. So we're gonna move on to FVJVA. Issue number. It's worse to say. No, it does not. Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, number 5. And thoughts on the cover. I think this cover is also just fine.
Yeah, I like the bottom half of it where it's Jason and Ash. Freddy, I think the head's cool, but there's like some weird space in the middle that they don't quite flow into each other, I think.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think it's okay. I think the bottom half with Freddy with Jason and Ash is good, but like with Freddy, there's something off about it. But there's something off that I'm just like, I think it's okay. It's all right. But yeah, it's a cool cover. But all right, Rebecca, start us off, please. Start us off.
All right, so we again picking up where we left off. Freddy's like floating above with his like new demon Deadite powers, taunting Jason as his victims continue to torture him. Freddy takes one of his severed hands and it picks up a machete and stabs Jason through the chest with it. Jason right now just kind of looks like, even though he's a serial killer, you're supposed to feel bad for him a little bit. You're kind of supposed to root for him. So he's got like the sad puppy dog eyes before he pulls the knife or the machete back out of his chest to use it as a weapon. Freddy monologues some more about how he has the Necronomicon and he's going to set all his plans in motion, take over the world basically, and give everyone nightmares. But he notices that the Necronomicon has suddenly disappeared and he screams out for Ash. So we see Ash running as a giant Freddy head appears behind him, chasing him through the woods. We get, of course, with Evil Dead, some evil trees here.
I was so happy because I'm just like, you can't have Evil Dead without angry molesting trees. Like it just
Luckily,
yes.
These aren't as rapey as they are in the first movie, but
no, they're not as rapey, but they still count.
I guess. But they tie him up, and then he gets some evil crows or ravens who come to peck him to death, I guess. And Ash, being a little unhinged, bites the bird back and kills it. And for whatever reason, this stops all the other birds, I guess. But we see him be able to grab the pull string on the chainsaw and get that started so he can cut himself out of the branches and escape. And he
just has black blood on his mouth. It's like kind of wild.
Yeah, it's just this like black liquid. I'm assuming it's blood, but like demon blood, whatever. But he's able to cut down some of the trees and shoot some of the birds. And we get his iconic "Hail to the King" line, even though it doesn't really fit here. So then later we see he finds the two, I would call them stoners. They're not quite stoners, but the two like
dickheads,
whatever characters, dead on the ground. And he's like, oh man, I should have been able to save them. How could this happen? And he looks longingly at his necklace from the other movies that he got from Linda. And
I love this. He was like, why the fuck? I was like, I'm useless. Why can't I save anybody?
Yeah, he laments about Linda. He laments about, I guess, Bree, who, what does he call her here? Sugar baby. And then he's like, Caroline too. Like, Jesus. Damn, why couldn't I save them? And it turns out Caroline's still alive. She just pops out from behind a tree and they embrace and they do the, oh, I thought I lost you. And oh, Ash, you're so cool. All that kind of stuff.
She's underage.
Literally, but I guess don't think about it. Yep. In the movie, this would probably be played by a 30-year-old anyway, but whatever.
True.
So then Freddy's like demon head comes out of the cloud in the sky and is running after them, I guess. They're able to make it back to the house, and Ash explains once again that, Freddy's trying to bring nightmares into the waking world. And he says, we got to use the Necronomicon to send him to the Deadite dimension, blah, blah, blah. We've already been over this before. They open the Necronomicon to look through it, and they see inside there's pictures of Freddy, Pamela, and Jason Voorhees. And they figure out that Freddy must have seen all this in Jason's head, and that's how he figured out that the Book of the Dead could be used to bring him back.
Mm-hmm.
And they also question here, like, why did Pamela have the Necronomicon? And, this is where they establish she must have used it to bring Jason back, and that he's some kind of Deadite. Like I said, this is where it gets, I guess, canonized, at least in the context of comic.
And that's the thing, I kind of like that. Like, I kind of like that. How else would Jason just come back for no reason? Like,
I don't think it's ever like explained in the series, but they send Jason to space, and that's not connected to this. Like,
that's true, but I do like the fact that like Jeff Katz and and James Kuhoric, they actually that. The reason why Jason comes back is because the Necronomicon can do that, and Pam figured it out. Like, I like that. It's kind of like a cool like way to retcon and like give some connective tissue to like the Evil Dead side of like this crossover.
Yeah. Anyway, Ash tells her that Carrie that she's going to need to say the words Klaatu, Virata, Nikto, which is what he says in Army of Darkness, or what he tries to say and doesn't. He makes a point here that you have to say all the words, every last syllable, and then, the bad guys show up. So Ash walks outside ready to go fight Freddy, and when he walks outside the door, he sees the creepy children doing the 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you, all that sort of rhyme stuff. He tells the kids to get out of here, not understanding that they're not real, and then when he looks back at the front door, Freddy's there, and he's got Carrie. Ash runs back after her, but the creepy children start to attack him with the jump ropes and turn into, like, demon children. It's kind of like the scene in the first Freddy vs. Jason, but not quite. These are a little more Freddy-fied. So, Ash is fighting the demon kids. He takes, he uses his boomstick, he uses his chainsaw to split them in half, and they're all gross and freshy. There's, like, a Freddy snake thing that's also there. It doesn't really matter. This is all just, like, a fight scene,
Yep.
We also see Jason enter the dream world, unbeknownst to Freddy. Freddy, in character, is creeping on minors this time. And he does like a weird tongue thing with Caroline, where he licks her cheek and then he backhands her. And then we see Jason crash through the house. And
the goddamn Kool-Aid, man. It's hilarious.
Yeah, and Freddy's like, what the fuck are you doing here? I've already, like, dealt with you. And he's, I'm a god, all that kind of stuff. He's smashing boards into Jason.
I'm sorry. I don't know why, but like I was thinking of Kanye when he said that. I was like, I am a god.
Same energy, honestly.
Yeah, Freddy and Kanye have the same energy, man.
Yeah. I don't want to linger on that too long, or I'm gonna start thinking about it. But
yeah.
But Freddy's making some bad puns, all that kind of stuff. Caroline starts to recite the words that Ash told her in the Necronomicon, but she's interrupted by Jason swiping the book off of her. Ash is able to get up to him and shoot him in the face, and he shoots off the mask, revealing Jason's disfigured, rotting head.
And I love the way this is drawn because it's so gross. Like, it's nasty.
It's very well rendered. Like I said earlier, the artist does a really good job at drawing Jason in this. But also, while he's doing that, Ash manages to cut off his arm with a chainsaw and get Carrie back the book. And he just tells her to open the portal and send them to hell. And then we see, and this would be an iconic scene if it was in the movie, Jason takes the blade of his machete and shoves it into his stub arm. So it's like Ash with his chainsaw, but
he looks right at Ash. He looks right at Ash while he does it too. He just like, I like this, and he just takes his machete, and just puts it in his stump, and it's like, holy shit, this would have been sick if this was in live action, man.
It's like one of those things that's both stupid and cool at the same time. And Ash even says, I guess it's true what they say, there's no original ideas left.
Yeah.
So then we get all three of them are gonna fight kind of thing, where Freddy's like, oh, Jason, it's time to fight me again. Ash gets thrown out the window as Jason and Freddy go to fight, and the house crashes down on them, and then that's the end of issue 5.
Again, it's just this. I think it's just the same shit I have in like the last like few issues. It's fine. It's cool.
Cool. It's fun. This whole plot, all the plot is formulaic. There's some fun things with it, like we just talked about Jason shoving the machete in his stump. I think that's funny. I would have loved to see that in live action. I think this issue is good at incorporating a little more like Evil Dead kind of lore in it, because in some ways that feels like it's kind of on the back burner. I don't like all the stuff that's going on with Freddy. I think it's a little too like, I don't know if over the top's the right way to describe it, but I'm like, I don't really care about this. This isn't what I wanted to see Freddy doing,
Yeah, true. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I know like he's like a god and shit and he like turns into Kanye, but like it's just I was like I wanted to see like Freddy, like how it wasn't like Freddy versus Jason, where like it's like actually Freddy like and Jason like fighting,
right.
Like,
and they get a little bit in there with the dreams, but it's kind of hard to have them fight without doing the exact same thing. So I get that they're changing it up, but I think it's too much.
Like still like I think Freddy being able to like do what he does in the waking world is still cool, and I like how like I like that idea, but I also feel like they could have 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 Freddy actually be like also just like a physical threat as well, not just like a supernatural metaphysical one, which throughout the entirety of like this issue, you know what I'm saying? Like I wanted to see him there, like like you can conjure up shit and like while you try to claw Ash and Jason in the face, but
yeah, I think part of the problem is Freddy's always been like a very personal villain. Like your nightmares are going to be like personal to you, and when you try to scale that up, I don't think it quite works as well.
Yeah, true. I do also I think I was gonna say this like last issue, but I do like when like during his monologue, I do like the kind of like the line where he said like like there is an Elm Street all across the world, like every street has an Elm Street, so I like how
he's nightmares on all of them, baby.
Exactly. I kind of thought it was clever. But no, I do agree. There is a lot more Evil Dead stuff in here, which again, which makes me happy because that is my favorite franchise out of like all of these. I do like the fact that they made in this canon, Jason is a form of Deadite, like a form of unkillable Deadite. I don't know what Pam did when she read the Necronomicon, but for some reason she made an unstoppable killing machine Deadite, which is her son. When I love that. In my opinion, from now on, Jason is now a Deadite to me. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, you hear me? Yeah. And looking at all you Friday the 13th fans, I don't care. He's a Deadite to me now. Yeah, but it's just cool. I mean, yeah, it was fun. I mean, there's some action. Also, I don't know about you, but like, this made me laugh so hard when I saw that page of like the Necronomicon page, and you just have like, it's like these loose drawings of like, like how it would probably would look in Necronomicon of like Freddy and of Pam in the corner, and then like Freddy and like and Jason, as like as how he is in Jason as a kid, and you see like a fully rendered photo of like Freddy's schmuck face, like was doing a creepy ass, doing like the weirdest smile ever, like the weirdest like face. It had me laughing. I was like, why did Jason Craig draw him like that in the book? But I digress. But yeah, it was fun. I mean, the last like fight, like this page, I didn't understand that like I couldn't like understand like the house like crumbled on them. I was like, what's going on here? Like like
I think it's a bad composition on the last panel.
Yeah. And I thought it was cool. I again, it's just like that machete moment with Jason, I thought was so good though. I wish we saw this live action. But yeah, I got nothing else to say. This issue was cool. It was cool. It's good ideas. All right, so I will be doing the last issue then, I guess. Might as well just to finish it off. But moving on to issue number 6. of Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. And thoughts on this cover? This cover is also I do like this one. This one is good. This one is good. Simple.
This one I think it's a little boring. I think it's well drawn, but it's kind of boring to me.
Yeah, it's just a simple, like, I think it's good. I think it's well drawn. Yeah, like you said, but yeah, just simple, like, just a hockey mask, like Jason's mask, and like just each character in eyes. I'm like, we've seen that before. That's kind of lazy. But yeah. I think it is okay. But yeah, so just to start off, again, we get more of like Ash monologuing, Ash narrating as he always does about the current situation. We have them pretty much Carrie lifting Ash, grabbing Ash and dragging him away from the rubble, and she also grabs the Necronomicon from him as well. And while this is happening, Freddy kind of emerges out from the house, like he's kind of like he like merges like through. He's like a part of the house and like kind of like merges out of it and like emerges from the rubble and immediately goes after Carrie. Carrie runs, and this is the thing. I think I thought this was like a dream sequence, but no, I guess these are just like ice fishing cottages or something like that. I don't know what this is, but anyway, she stumbles upon these random cottages, and she decides to hide in one of them. But it's just saying like Freddy can like warp reality at this point, so like why would hiding matter when I feel like he would know where you are? But anyway, Freddy he embiggens, and he decides to find Carrie, and he decides to blow up like all these houses just to get her to run, so he can figure out where she's at. And then he does something like, I think this is the weirdest shit I've seen Freddy do in this entire book, where he's just like, oh, like he blows up he blows up a house that's near her, and she says, oh God, and he's like, oh, is that you want to be God? I can be God. And he decides to like cut himself open. It's like, I am the body of Christ, eat me. And it's just like, what is happening? What is this? Like, what is a weird ass turn for like Freddy's just being weird?
I know in some of the other movies he like cuts himself and does like something similar, but it's a little different here. It's a little more religious, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he's like, this is my blood, it is your wine. It's like bread and wine and all for you, Caroline. Now eat me, bitch. It's just like, what the fuck? This freaks Caroline out, which allows him to grab the Necronomicon from her, and he begins to do his reality warping evil plan until Jason comes out of nowhere with his machete hand and cuts him and cuts and splits Freddy's head open. But yet Freddy can warp reality, so he just puts it right back together again, and they get into a little fight. And then they begin to like fight a little bit, but then Freddy decides to actually blow at Jason until he's frozen in ice. And then while Jason taunts Freddy taunts frozen Jason with a bunch of slurs again, and is about to read from the book, Ash comes out of nowhere with his car and hits Freddy and runs Freddy over, and begins to beat the crap out of him. And while he does that, we get some really cool action scenes of Freddy and Ash getting into a fight. Ash using his boomstick, he shoots Freddy in the nuts, and he receives to call him no nuts, and it's hilarious. And then Jason comes out of nowhere and kind of like blindsides Ash and gets him to stumble. And Ash makes a remark where he said, "Oh, like that was a close one," but that he still has some luck in him, until the ice that he's stepping on actually starts to break, and he gets sucked into the water. And then Freddy and Jason begin to fight again. Freddy decides to he uses rowdy warping abilities to the test now, and he begins to make multiple versions of himself to fight Jason. There's a lot of fighting here, obviously. And while all these Freddys are pummeling Jason, Ash at the last second swims up to the surface, punches a hole, cuts a hole out with his chainsaw, and bursts out, saving himself. And then some more fighting happens, and Ash comes up right behind Freddy and Jason, uses the boomstick, uses the chainsaw to start to get the best of them. And while this is happening, he yells at Caroline to recite the words from the Necronomicon while they're both like distracted by him, which she begins to do so, and to Freddy's dismay, she summons a portal right behind him, which begins to suck him into the Deadite dimension, and it pretty much it is a recreation from like the portal scene from Evil Dead 2. Things are starting to get sucked in, including Ash and Carol, who are holding on to a tree to make sure they don't get sucked in. Then they realize, oh wait, Jason's too strong to get sucked into this portal because he's just that thick. So he's walking towards them, and there's another instance of Ash Williams' luck. The car is about to get blown in and actually hits Jason, and actually getting him to plummet into the ice because Jason can't swim because he drowned. Remember, guys, he drowned, so he can't swim and he gets put underneath the water. And while Freddy's about to get sucked into the portal, he grabs onto it and then he's about to recite it until the wind blows it into the water and he gets sucked into the portal for good. And that is the end of Freddy as we know it. So the book pretty much ends with typical like horror movie ending Evil Dead horror movie ending where Ash gets his bearings. He ends up, kissing the underage girl, and he ends up packing his things, getting into a car and driving off, and pretty much living happily ever after. Even though he acknowledges that these are the last. He knows that this isn't the last of Freddy and Jason. They will probably come back eventually, but he's going to be enjoying, the quiet for as long as he can. And he ends up driving off into the sunset. While this happened, we get a transition to a body in the water, which is revealed to be Jason, and the Necronomicon slowly floating down towards him.
I think it's coming out of a portal or something.
Oh, it's coming out of a portal. Yeah, it's kind of hard to explain. It's kind of hard to tell with the color.
Not the best here.
Yeah. And we pretty much get like the Necronomicon coming down towards Jason. It opens and we get a kind of a new page that has been written into the book where it looks like Ash. It looks like Ash and a couple other figures in the background facing off against Freddy a second time, and it cuts to a close-up of Jason's just rotten face. We hear the familiar and Jason's eyes open, and that is how issue 6 ends. So thoughts on issue 6, Rebecca?
There's a lot of fighting in this, like you said, so I don't really have too much to talk about. I don't know if you have anything to say about this specifically, but I can kind of go into final thoughts otherwise.
I don't really have anything to say. I mean, it's just a bunch of cool fights. It's a bunch of cool fights that happens, and Freddy gets thwarted. That's pretty much it. Yeah, I don't really got anything else to say on it either. I could also just go into final thoughts as well. But all right, Rebecca. So let's get into our final thoughts. So, what were you thinking of? What would you give Freddy versus Jason versus Ash out of 10?
Out of 10, I would probably give this a 6. I think knowing that this is based off a treatment, that this isn't like, the final draft of what they would have shot. I mean, it could have been for all we know, but it feels like there's still some things to work out in here. Like I said, I think this book as a whole is a little too mean-spirited. I think maybe you could play it a little lighter, like in a film adaptation, but the way it's written here, there's a lot of things that just feel like uncomfortable. Yeah,
most definitely. I would agree as well, especially with it's all with Freddy. Like it's all
Freddy. He's just the problem in this, like more so than usual.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's just Freddy is he's written to be too over the top and just too like crude and just gross, and it's just like, oh my god. Continue. Sorry, I kind of cut you off.
That's kind of it. I think the stuff with Ash and Jason are better. I feel like Ash is mostly in character in this,
Yeah, pretty much.
So I don't really have any complaints there. I think it is kind of hard to balance all three, like their different lore, and give them like appropriate screen time. I see what they're going for in the movie or in the comic. I keep saying movie. I see what they're going for. I think it works. I think you might need a few more scenes in the beginning with Freddy doing stuff and maybe not having as much Freddy and Jason working together because they also did that in the first movie. But if that's what gets our plot rolling, that's what gets the plot rolling, you know?
Yeah. For me, I would give this book. I think I would give this book like a 5.5. I thought it was solid. Obviously it has issues, especially with like the massive amounts of plot advancement, so that so we can actually like make all these characters, this crossover actually like make sense. I think was a
Right.
little jarring. But I do think that like again, I think the characterization of Ash, I keep saying Ash is good. I mean, it feels like Ash Williams, like which is great. I think the Ash and Jason stuff is really fun. Like I again like a lot of great action between these two characters, and a lot of the kills with Jason are great. I think they're a lot of fun. The stuff with Freddy again is again, you would know more than me, but I thought he was a little. I thought in terms of like the characterization of him in this canon was a little too much. I thought the plan of him, I thought the idea of him, coming into the waking world with the Necronomicon to enhance his abilities, that was a good idea, but like it was too much like just evil villain monologuing, not a lot of like Jason, like not a lot of like actual like fighting, with Freddy, especially only more so towards the end.
I think the idea is okay in itself, but I think the execution isn't great here.
Yeah. Again, there's some really good ideas here. Like, again, a lot of great, clever homages within, each character and obviously like their franchises. Again, like the hands, the Freddy hands with, homaging Ash and Evil Dead. Even like, Jason, the copying, the Ash chains iron with his machete was great. The stuff with the Necronomicon and how how the changes involving with retconning Jason's character to tie in the Necronomicon, having him be a version of a Deadite is, really cool. Again, I do agree with Rebecca. I wish there were more Deadites in here. I will explain that I will explain that when it comes to like when we wrap things up. But yeah, I think it's really cool. I mean, the other characters aren't really relevant. I mean, except for like I guess Caroline, because she's like the main character in the series.
Who really cares though?
Yeah, who really cares? Like it's we're not really here for that. It's like, but the beats in this issue felt like such like kind of like a B-rated horror movie. People were like, yeah, like you have that attitude already. Like who cares about these other characters? Like we're not here for that.
This feels like it could have been a movie I gave a 3 stars on Letterboxd too.
That's true, right? But yeah, and overall, I thought this entire series was fun. But yeah, because of the problems and like. And plus, it was very wordy. Like, it was very hard to follow, at least for me. Obviously with Freddy, I feel his character is the worst in terms of like the main leads. I was like, I give it like I think a 5.5 is fair, just in the middle. It's solid. I still think, but it was still entertaining. I love the ideas that in the homages that they do in the book. In the book, I think it's really fun. But yeah, it's a 5.5 for me. Rebecca, give it a 6.5.
I give it a 6.
Yeah, okay, 6, straight 6. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was really fun. This was nice. But I wanted to talk about real quick. So I mentioned earlier that there was a reason why this movie didn't happen. There was a nail in the coffin that was there was a decision. There was a decision that was pretty much a nail in the coffin since this movie getting made. And the decision was, Rebecca, because we see how this book ends. This book ends with Ash winning. And going off into the sunset, he gets rid of he banishes he gets rid of Freddy. He banishes Freddy. Jason also meets his end, even though he sees that he's gonna come back, right? But the original pitch with Jeff Katz's treatment, and obviously there were multiple meetings to try to figure out how this thing was going to work, like logistically, canonically, financially, all that stuff, right? And you had, and obviously, Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi were involved. Obviously, they wanted, Robert Englund to come back, and Robert Englund did say that after Freddy vs. Jason, he would be down to come back, but also but because the production was so long, he was again getting tired of it at some point. Like, yeah, maybe I might have to retire the role, right? As well. And so the original idea was for the ending of the movie is that Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell wanted Freddy and Ash to Freddy and Jason to die at the hands of Ash. They wanted Ash, to be the hero at the end and kill both Freddy and Jason, because they didn't want Ash to be cannon fodder for Jason and Freddy throughout the entire movie, right? Like they
Right.
didn't want them to get most of the spotlight, of course, right? Jeff Katz also loved this idea and said, yeah, like it would make sense, for obviously Ash to live up to the chosen one moniker that he has, as throughout the whole Evil Dead franchise, and kill two of the greatest horror like icons in horror in the history of film, right? So he agreed with that. Even Robert Englund was saying, yeah, all the characters, like I also thought that like this movie would be a good way to permanently end my chapter on the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise by having one of my favorite characters in horror, Ash Williams, kill me off permanently, right? So all of them were for it. New Line was like, no, they did not want it at all. Because they didn't want to have Freddy and Jason cut off, because they wanted to continue to milk the character as much as possible, and they had multiple movies planned, like right after Freddy vs. Ash. So Ash. So they wanted the ending to have Freddy and Jason live, so they can make more movies, more spin-offs. I know they wanted another crossover movie with another horror character. They wanted a prequel movie to Freddy with Robert Englund as like Freddy before he was as Freddy Krueger. Like you see like him as he killed serial killer before you see him turn into Freddy Krueger. Get the abilities and all that stuff. So they wanted to milk it as much as possible, but again, they just. But so that's why they were like, and they tried to get all the other people involved, like Sam, Robert Englund, Jeff Katz, to buzz so they can change the script, but they were like, no, they stuck to it, and so the movie ended up not getting made. And they also thought as a compromise to probably to adapt the second movie instead, the second script instead, which was the sequel to this book, which was the Nightmare Warriors sequel to Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, but because everyone was so not interested in the development process, they were turned off by it, and they didn't want to even do that either. So that is what led to the remake for both Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street in 2009, 2010, and obviously those didn't do well, and that's why we haven't really seen any more of those films since then.
Well, that and the rights just getting fucked.
And the rights becoming a mess. So, but yeah, Rebecca. This is the real question though. Would you have wanted to see, like, say if this movie did get made, would you have wanted to see a Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash? Now knowing the story now in comic book form in theaters, if it was in another universe.
If you change some things up, like I just talked about in my criticisms of the book as a whole, I would. I like the concept of Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. So I would like to see that movie. It's never going to happen now. Hindsight being 2020, it would have been a good send-off for all these franchises before they got rebooted, but
exactly,
can't do anything about it now.
Yeah, I feel like the only way you could do this movie now is if they reboot reboot Jason again, reboot Freddy again. And unfortunately, you'd have to reboot Ash, but that would never happen because Bruce Campbell is Ash Williams. So,
Yeah, you could still do it now. It just, wouldn't hit like it would following Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, right. I mean, if they could do it now, I mean, obviously, there would be more of a chance if it was during the time of Ash versus Evil Dead, where Bruce Campbell was, reprising his role and killing it. But again, they canceled the show, and he said he retired. He was retiring the role right after that. Even though, after the successful Evil Dead Rise, he's like, I could maybe come back.
I feel like he would come back. I think he'd do it.
So I feel like if they do that, they should. And plus, also one of the reasons why they couldn't really adapt the second volume is because the second volume is way crazier than this. The second, the Nightmare Warriors sequel is nuts. And
we're gonna have
there are Deadites in there. There are Deadites in there. There's actually there's an army of Deadites in the next volume. And it would have been extremely expensive to try to adapt back then, but I feel like they could do it now if they wanted to. Like, you know.
But the bad news is Robert Englund is 77 years old. I don't think they're getting him out for another movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they would have to reboot Freddy. They would have to reboot Jason, and also make sure that, you know, Bruce Campbell is, you know, young enough. It's still, and make sure Bruce Campbell can, like, you know, still physically portray Ash. You know, so yeah, it would. Yeah. It could work, but, like, you know, there's so many factors involved that's going against it, you know. But yeah, Rebecca, we're done. We did it. And maybe one day we'll do Nightmare Warriors, because, like, after doing my research, I'm like, this sounds awesome, and, like, we may do that in the future. We'll see. But yeah, I got anything else you want to say, Rebecca, before we close it out?
Question for the day for you specifically.
Mm-hmm.
FVJVA or AVP?
Fucking hell. Oh, I don't want to answer this. I would say, for me personally, I would, like, if the movie actually came out for Freddy vs.
Yeah,
Jason,
like, based on the story in both of those movies, the movie versus this comic.
Yeah, I would say this. Because I Alien vs. Predator is also fun, but, like, that movie's just, knowing what that movie is now compared to, like, this, like, I would have had a way more, like, I would have the fun of this book would have distracted me more of, like, the issues with this than Alien vs. Predator. You know what I'm talking about?
That's fair.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say FVJVA would be my go-to. Well, what about yourself? What about you?
That's a hard one, because I really like the last 30 minutes of AVP.
Just the last 30 minutes. The last 30 minutes is dope. I will say that. It is dope.
I mean, the first hour of it's just exposition. Like, when you rewatch that movie, you're like, I promise, guys, it's good. You just have to keep watching. But that's like any Paul W.S. Anderson movie.
That's true.
But no, Freddy vs. Jason, classic in my mind. So
yeah.
Might have to give it to FVJV.
We gotta get shirts that to say we release the FJVA cut. Like, you know, we didn't make that happen. We gotta make it like shirts. We're making like an Indiegogo campaign or some shit, like a petition. Like, go change.org.
That's gonna be our fan film.
There probably is a petition out there somewhere. Still that's active for getting this movie made. I mean, who knows? But yeah, all right. Well, I'll just close it out. But thanks for everyone who are watching this or will watch this. We appreciate it. Be on the lookout for, please comment, like, subscribe on the video. Have you read the book? What are your thoughts on it? Leave it on the comments. Oh, are you a Freddy fan? Are you a Jason fan? Are you an Ash fan? Who are you rooting for? Like, in this weird crossover thing that exists. Leave it down in the comments. We love to know. Be on the lookout for more of our content. Obviously, this is our third episode. As of the time of this recording, it's our third episode. It's gonna drop the third week of October. So therefore, we are gonna be covering another book, and this is the book which the poll is still active, but it's the book that you guys can choose. So again, you have the option between these four books, which are Philadelphia, the Devil That Wears My Face, The Crow, or Resonant. And so you put in your votes before we we cut it off, and we're like, yeah, we gotta record this eventually. So so be on the lookout for that. Check out all the other episodes we dropped. Check out our Hellboy episode that we just did, which was a lot of fun. And thanks, Rebecca, for adding the Arju Jihad comment. That was hilarious. I was laughing the whole time. And as well as our Somna coverage as well. And also be on the lookout for some more. I'm gonna be dropping some shorts and some clips throughout the course of the rest of October. Check out all our other content if you're not subscribed. Deadly Class, Transformers, the One and Dones, the interviews, the reactions, the After Darks. We appreciate it, the support and all the love we get from these videos, because we put our hard blood, sweat, and tears into it. And as always, people, get home safe, and we'll see y'all next time. All right, bye-bye. Peace.